Closing is the most important part. Closing is the payday. If you can close, no matter how much you know and how much knowledge you have about anything, you are not going to get paid.
This is Fridays Are for Closers podcast.
Learn the skills that it takes to get paid.
Welcome to the first episode of Fridays Are for Closers podcast. My name is Raul Velasquez. I'm here with my partner, Juan Carlos Garcia. Juan Carlos, welcome to the first episode of the game.
I'm so glad to be here, being part of this interesting podcast that is going to be giving some insights about the art of hunting, and not hunting on the wilderness, but hunting in the real estate world.
In business overall, man, because here's one thing that I want the audience to understand. Like, you and I go way back. And when people constantly ask me, Raul, how did you get started in real estate? How did you get started in business? And one of the reasons I'm doing this podcast is a little bit to bring awareness to what is the framework of how to be a closer. Because if you don't know how to close, you're gonna starve in the business world. I mean, you and I know that if you don't know how to hunt, you're gonna starve. So because I get so many messages every single day about, Raul, how can I start my own business? Raul, how can I start in real estate? Raul, how can I do this? I thought maybe it's beneficial for everyone just for us to create a podcast, bring value to the market, and just talk about one of the most important things in business, which is how to close.
Well, I gotta tell you, sometimes people know everything about their business, everything about how to present a project or a product, and they miss the most important part, which is closing. Closing is the most important part. Closing is the payday. If you can close, no matter how much you know and how much knowledge you have about anything, you are not going to get paid.
If you have a marketing strategy and you have a great product, doesn't mean anything unless you know how to get paid. Unless you know how to close.
That's right.
So let's give the audience a little bit of background about you and I, all right? You and I will go back at least 20 years, almost 20 years.
That's correct.
When I met you, I don't know if you remember this, I walked into my uncle's house and I saw him signing a contract and you were selling him some property, some real estate, right?
That's right. Yep. Actually down in Florida. I was actually working for a big developer down in Florida, which I did for almost 20 years, as a matter of fact. And yes, I met you while I was closing to your uncle on a property in Florida.
And at that moment, I was in my uncle's house trying to sell him a computer, a laptop. A laptop that I bought in the black market, and I was trying to flip the laptop because I was always been in sales. I've always been in sales, and I always look for a way to hustle. So I remember walking into my uncle's house that day, and I had this laptop, and I'm talking to him. I say, hey, you want to buy a laptop? I was like, no, I don't want a laptop. This was 20 years ago. He didn't need a laptop, right?
That's right.
And then you said, hey, I'm interested in this laptop. And then you and I started talking about technology.
That's correct, which was something that was foreign language for me, okay? I started in the business many years ago where there was no computers, there was no technology. We barely started seeing the first cell phones look like these big bricks from Motorola. So for me, a computer was a whole different new world to explore. And when you came over and you presented me with that, you closed me on the idea.
That's right.
You know, so you were a closer even before you knew you were a closer.
And one thing I didn't know is that what I was closing you on wasn't just a laptop. You actually were calling me every single night for technical support.
Of course, I need the technical support. You got to put your money where your mouth is. You got to put your money where your mouth is.
It came to the point of like, listen, man, take this laptop. I mean, give me back my laptop. Take the money back because you were calling me every single day.
Do you remember how much you charged me for the laptop?
I think it was like a couple $1,000. You know, was
no.
Was it $1,500 or was it $500?
I think it was $700.
$700. I wanted $1,000, but we negotiated.
Yeah, that's right. We negotiated down to $700.
And then it was like a year's worth of technical support. I'm like, shit, man, like I have to call this guy every single night.
Do you remember the brand of the laptop?
It was a Toshiba or a Compact?
Compact.
Yeah, I got good memory, brother. Good memory.
I'll never forget it. And I used to spend long nights trying to figure it out because I'm the kind of guy that when I see something in front of me and it is challenging because I don't know, I'm the kind of guy that I want to explore it. I want to look into it and see if I can make it work without having to need the help or the technical support that you didn't want to give me.
And I think that's one thing that we have to understand and bring awareness that if you are a closer, you have this hunger and tenacity to discover the new tools.
I think that to be a closer or being a closer requires a specific state of mind, which is the key element. Because everything is in your head. Everything is in your mind in terms of how do you feel about making the kill, about asking for the sell, about asking for the deal, for the money, and it is a state of mind. People is so afraid of taking that step when in reality it is expected by the consumer. Every consumer expects that at some point or another they will be asked for money exchange. And when you're afraid to do that basic part of the business relationship, then you don't close. You can't. You don't have the state of mind for it.
Yeah, and I think at that moment when you and I had that transaction, then you planted a seed. And I said, what does this guy do? How has he been able to do business without technology? I remember me calling you and said, okay, man, I already give you enough technical support. Now I need something from you. Like, teach me real estate.
That's correct.
I was working a 9 to 5. I was working my corporate job. And I read the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yes.
And it said the best way to become wealthy is to invest your money in real estate.
That's correct.
And then I put 2 and 2 together. So this guy's in real estate. I just finished reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And I have a guy here in front of me that's successful. Obviously, you were successful at that point. So I asked for help.
That's right.
And that's when I learned the art of closing.
You know what I call that? I call destiny. I call that destiny because indeed, you were recently married, I remember.
Yeah, just came back from a honeymoon.
That's right. And you bought your first house in Ivory Street, which I'll never forget. And you were actually, listen, my first house, I purchased it when I was 26. But I did buy my first piece of real estate because, whether it's land or a house, it's still real estate, when I was 20. Okay, so you pretty much follow the same path I had, because sometimes there is people that gravitate to each other eventually that have the same kind of mentality and the same kind of state of mind. Going back to the state of mind thing.
Because one thing that I learned reading Rich Dad Poor Dad is the worst place to be is paying rent. Like, you need to have. So I never pay rent. I went from living at my family's house.
That's right. To your own house.
And it's funny because I had a basement apartment when I was in college, right when I was in school. And then the moment that I said, Mom, when I get married, I want to buy a house, she already okay, when? Because I need you to get out of the house because it was a multifamily. I'm going to rent this basement apartment out because we were talking about cash flow. I mean, we're immigrants. We came from nothing.
That's right.
So every single thing that we had to allocate assets to.
It's so funny that you bring up the matter of not paying rent. I got to tell you, when I came to this country in 1987, I got involved in real estate 6 months after I got to this country in 87. So I came in January 15th. I will never forget it. And in August, I was already working in real estate. But the biggest reason why, because at that point I did not really understand the great opportunity in money that real estate represents. But my biggest interest and the reason why I got involved in real estate to begin with was because I saw that most people, especially the immigrant community, were paying rent. And that was something that I couldn't understand because I wasn't brought up that way. Okay, and to see the opportunity to service people that pay rent and give them the great American dream of ownership
and own something.
That was the biggest thing, and that's why I got involved. Not even because of the money. I found out later that there is potential to make millions in real estate, but that was not my first, objective or my first reason why I did it. I did it for the service and to help other people.
And I think that's where, you and I have a very common goal, that the moment that we realize this is good, like I bought my first house and I realized, my tenants were paying my mortgage. Like, I didn't have a payment.
That's
I
right.
bought a multifamily and I lived in the smallest apartment in the multifamily and I rented the whole house out. So I didn't have any rent to pay or mortgage to pay because my tenants paid for my mortgage. So that's what gave me the capacity to understand, okay, can I do this again and again and again? So then you and I talked, you said, okay, I'm gonna teach you real estate. And I remember like it was yesterday, I went into your boardroom and I said, okay, how do you sell? And you took out your pad, your yellow pad, and I said, here's the steps to close. You gotta do this, and that.
And a portfolio. I had a portfolio with pictures and with maps and all that stuff, which was the old traditional way of making the presentations. And it worked, but eventually that faded away, giving way to technology.
So that's when I came in. I said, okay, I can't remember all this, okay, but I could put this in a PowerPoint presentation.
That's right.
And I could have the laptop that I sold you. So eventually I started using it too. I said, let me show you how we could work this out, right? So I put a PowerPoint in the laptop with a PowerPoint presentation. So then instead of using the pads, the yellow pads, and instead of me remembering every step, I just point and clicked.
That's right. You did a PowerPoint presentation, which I thought it was amazing. And I was, you know something, it was destiny for me too, Raul. I mean, it was destiny for you to kind of get involved in real estate through me. And it was destiny for me to be exposed to technology in a very friendly way with somebody that was working with me, who was looking up to me like it was in your case. So I think that we benefit greatly from the relationship in many different ways. Because yes, you open the door for a more effective
way to hunt.
Yes,
a more
to actually do the
hunt.
same job. Correct.
So, but here's what people understand. Technology is not the key. Because now you have this tool and you have a better way to hunt, but you still have to get out there and hunt.
Of course.
And I remember what you told me. I said, okay, we have this PowerPoint. Okay, I have all the framework. I'm excited. I want to make some money. And then you gave me yellow pages. Actually, not the yellow page, the white pages. I said, here's your prospects. Here are all the people you
got
call.
a million prospects
You have
to
a
call.
million prospects in the tri-state area between New York, Connecticut, New Jersey. Go hunt.
That's right.
And I'm like, okay. So I didn't know any better. And I started with a letter S. Then we started, I just, every single day, making phone calls, every single day hunting, every single day making those, what people think cold calling. And that's how I started the game.
I gotta tell you.
Cold calling, having my PowerPoint presentation, and asking people, do you want to buy real estate? Yes or no?
That's right.
Some people say,
right.
I don't want it. I'm interested. And I remember, because I still had my full-time job. I still worked in the corporate world. And I remember checking out at 5 p.m., clocking out at 5 p.m., and then going to your office at 6 p.m. Remember that office that you had in New York?
Yeah.
And then from there until midnight, making phone calls.
That's right.
And then that's what I think that people, they think that success happens just for the lucky ones, right? And then success happens because you got into the right place at the right time. We were selling things. We were selling a development in Florida to New York residents.
Correct.
So our job to close was one that we had to convince them of the value over the phone, so they could even come to the office or we could meet at their house, and then had to convince those people to fly with us to Florida and to buy the land. It was just, that experience, man, that experience really made me aware of the ability to influence people on bringing value.
You know why? Because that's real hardcore sales. Okay, kitchen sales, they call them. Okay, so insurance people and real estate guys that do these developments are probably the best known to be the strongest salespeople.
Because I believe if somebody invites you to their house, like I don't invite anybody to my house unless I'm interested in the product. Like I recently had a guy come to the house and present us with some insurance policies. But if I invite somebody to the house because I'm interested, I don't invite strangers to my house.
That's right.
So I think that people discount the ability to get into somebody's home. So if you're listening to this and you're in the insurance world and you're in the real estate world and any kind of world that you get into people's kitchens, that's half the battle, especially nowadays.
That's
if somebody invites you to their house, you already close them.
Their house is their haven. When they invite you, you are actually in their private territory, which is 50% of the work is already done. The other 50% is your knowledge about the product and your ability to ask for the sale. Again, closing.
So I remember that day that we had a conversation. I said, okay, and you asked me, how much money you want to make, Raul? And I think that's a lot of people who go into sales, either they don't have a clear focus of what they want to make, or they just throw a crazy number out there that they're never going to reach. But I remember I said, I want to make 6 figures because I never made $100,000 before I met you. I said, I want to make $100,000 because in my mind, $100,000 was like this big, audacious number that once I get it, I'm going to be successful, right? And you said, okay, so here's what's going to happen. You have to sell 100 units because I was getting $1,000 commission for every unit. So 100 units, $100,000. And I said, okay. And that year, I hustled and I closed 100 units. I made $100,000 that year.
Correct.
And then you took me out to that restaurant that's no longer here to celebrate. And you were like, you one crazy man. Like I've never, other than you, I think you've never met anybody in that organization.
That was so fast to develop and to
within 1 year.
That's correct.
Because I didn't know any better. I didn't know any better. You told me, you didn't frame it in a way that said, Raul, nobody has done this before. You didn't say like, the top guy has done this. No, you said you want to do this, here is what you have to do. And you left it at that. So I want the audience to understand when you listen to this, like it's not about breaking records. It's not about catching up to other people. It's just getting clear about what you want and having somebody say, here's what you need to do, and just follow through.
Well, I got to tell you, that is 3 important elements, okay, to transcend from your current job, whichever that job may be, into real estate, okay? And one of them is to be, first of all, not to do the transition all at once. I think that many people make the mistake of jumping from one boat to the other, okay? And then they find themselves in a hole. And when you are stressed financially, you can't think straight, and you cannot perform.
And I think that's one of the reasons because I did $100,000 that first year, but I still have my full-time job.
That's correct.
And I was stashing the money. So if you remember how this all went down, I still worked full-time. I still had this sales job with you. And the second year, I said, I want in.
That's right.
Remember? I said, okay, I'm done paying my dues and making this. I want in. And then you said, well, if you want in, you have to bring capital. That's when I said, well, I have some capital here. We could buy this, we could buy that. And that's where I believe people miss that. You want to jump in to be the boss too fast sometimes. And you don't bring nothing into the table.
That's right.
It's like, okay, I'm your best sales guy, Juan Carlos. I need you to partner with me.
But they don't realize that there is obligations.
There's obligations, there's money. It takes money to make money.
That is expenditures, that is investment that has to be made in order to get
So you were transparent. Said, okay, here's how much money really you need to make, and here's how much money it takes. So I said, okay, then I make a conscious decision whether to invest or not. And I double down on me based on my capacity because I believed in the product.
That's right. All my people, the ones that come to my company and they kind of go through the process of learning and the process of becoming a successful salesperson in real estate, my advice to them always is not to transcend in one shot, do it little by little. Yeah. Okay. And the second thing that brings me to the second point or important thing is you have to have self-discipline. The reason why you were able to do it is because you had self-discipline. You understood that you needed to go to work during the daytime to keep your salary or whatever you were doing, so you had that money guaranteed. But then you needed to come and comply with the time that you were investing with me, which I wasn't paying you by the hour. And I wasn't telling you every day. I wasn't waking up. I wasn't calling you. I wasn't waking you up.
You were not babysitting me.
I wasn't babysitting you. Boom. Self-discipline is the second most important element to be able to become a successful real estate agent from a different field.
And I think that a lot of people miss the point, because I get this all the time, man. Like people call me like, oh yeah, I failed in this business. I failed in this business. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna try real estate. Like nobody says, I'm gonna go into real estate because that's my first choice. People always fall into real estate when they fail in everything else.
That's correct.
And I think that's a wrong mentality, because I didn't come into real estate because I failed in everything else. I came into real estate because it was a tool. I saw it as an opportunity. If you see it as an opportunity, use the skills. So being associated with a closer, because what I got from you, I learned the art to close. I mean, subconsciously, every meeting, every single time that I saw you, you have an art. I mean, you've been a closer, all your life.
That's right.
So I learned from you, and then I started putting my own twists and perfecting the close. So the point that I was able to use what I learned in real estate, when I started the next level experience and my coaching and consulting business, I saw people starting a business and failing in this industry every single day, and they couldn't understand why I was succeeding. And so one of the guys who taught me how to create my marketing funnel, his Raul, the reason that you're winning is because you're a closer.
Correct.
And I think so many people get this mixed up. A funnel is not gonna save you. A video is not gonna save you. A marketing strategy is not gonna save you. If you learn how to close, if you're a closer, I want this as a key part of your business, you have to be a closer, because here's my certainty comes from, if I don't have a video, if I don't have a marketing strategy, if my media company one day decides to move on, I will pick up the phone and I will still close.
That's correct.
I think that you and I, we have a history that, we made millions of dollars in real estate, partnered together, and then in the recession, we lost millions of dollars. I think we're gonna leave that to another episode. But the ability to close, we never lost.
I gotta tell you, the definition of closing is very simple. It's the natural conclusion of a presentation well done. If you know your product, whether it's real estate or something else, and you know how to present it, and you know the benefits of it, and you know the needs of the client, because you need to ask questions. Closing is nothing more than the natural conclusion of your presentation. That's all it is. So if you tell me, listen, I'm doing everything right, but I can't close, then you're missing something somewhere, because
in the communication.
Because closing is the natural conclusion of your presentation, and that's how you have to view it. So that's the mental attitude you need to have and a state of mind. Closer.
I'm excited about this because we're gonna bring so much value to the market with this podcast,
correct.
man. Because we don't have to practice, we don't have a script. We know unconsciously we're closers.
Right.
So give us one last thing that when the audience hear this, what's the third thing that they could actually get so they could understand how to become a closer? What's the last thing?
Fantastic. The last thing that I am going to share that is, I think is crucial and as important as the other two is patience. You need to be patient. I mean, listen, we all went to college, or some of us at least, and we spent 4 or 5 years in college. We spent $250,000, okay, getting an education, and we come out and we have no salary, no job. Now we got to start looking for these opportunities. In real estate, if you do well like you did, okay, and like many other people within a year were already independent, you could actually be making $250,000 within a couple of years. So what do I give as an advice to any person that comes to my company and start a career with me? Patience.
Patience.
You got to be self-disciplined, you got to be patient, and you need to jump from one boat to the other progressively, not in one shot.
That's it. I think that's very key, man. Thank you for being here. We're going to continue to bring value. So if you want to subscribe to the podcast, Fridays are for closers. Follow us on iTunes, in YouTube, and social media. I'm excited for the next episode, brother. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you for all of you to be listening, and we are looking forward to seeing you very soon.